Hello and welcome to Find It on this Wednesday evening. We are back tonight, and the topic is what it's like to be a teenager. And I was kind of laughing to myself backstage with our guest and my producer about what's it like being a teenager these days. Hey. But I do. I'm interested. I'm very interested in what she has to say, and I think that she can give us some insight on some things that we haven't thought of before in our age group. And it can help us parent better or be better aunts and uncles, better friends, whatever. But before I bring her up, this episode is sponsored to you by Studio 11 Style. And my hope is that you will download the free app in your app store so you can get all the updates. When I have new stuff come in, you can see it first. And when I do live streams, you can join me live and have all the fun. So if you download that, I would be very grateful. And I will see you at the next live stream every Monday night at 7 p.m. And with no further ado, let's get this teenage talk going. Let's learn some stuff. Welcome to the show, Katelyn Faux. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I've been really excited all day, and I've been trying to think of like, what do I want to talk to her about? What
Yeah.
questions do I have? So hopefully some of our guests will come on and ask questions as well, because I mean, we need to know what the young people are thinking these days. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. So I can start off with a little bit of background knowledge. So
Yes.
my
Yeah.
name
Tell
is
us a
Katelyn
little bit
Faux,
about you. Yes.
and I'm 16 years old, and I am attending a collegiate high school. So I take my high school courses, and then I'm going to get an associate's degree when I graduate.
Nice.
So more condensed.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really great that they did not do that when I was in school. So
I know,
that's
really
new.
new program.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously, what about your school? Is it a private school? Is it a public school?
So it is, it's open application, but you have to get accepted into it. So
Okay.
I applied at the end of my 8th grade year, and I wasn't sure, because whenever you're like in middle school, you're like, oh, like it's whatever. I want to hang out with like the high school experience, like all the things that you see on social media, like all
Uh-huh.
of the like the high school dream, all these big sports teams and the yellow school bus and all that. But I eventually was like, no, do what's the smarter option for you, and it's better for me because I am getting all of this college for free, and then
Yeah.
I get to meet all these people who have the same mindset as me, who are super motivated. They want to go into the medical field. It's awesome.
That's great. And you are what you are around. I've always told my kids that, you I love everybody and I love to be with people and some people in small doses, but you are what you live and you are what you are around. And so you already have taken some of the problems of teenage life out of the equation for you then if you're around like-minded students,
Yeah, and I
right?
mean, yeah, totally, because the people who go to my school, it's very small. My junior class has around 70 people, and that's
Wow.
pretty small. And
Yeah.
so whenever I am at school, it kind of drives me to be better in the sense of I'm pretty competitive, I'd like to say.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm around all these people who are super smart and it doesn't seem like they're putting in much effort, it's like I want to be super smart. I want people to know that I'm smart. I need them to know that I'm driven and that I can do it. So I work so hard to be at the same level, or at least motivated enough to try and like surpass them, in the sense of
Yeah.
just keeping up and wanting to further my knowledge and my abilities and my skills.
Well, that's really an old soul and a motivated, like young person. Being 16 years old and having that mindset. Who has inspired you? Have you always been this way, or is this perhaps the way you were raised?
Honestly, I think it's a fair bit of both. I have always been I've always looked up to my mother, and you've had her on here
Me
before.
too.
I've looked up to her. She started her own business, and she's so independent. She does everything very like nobody tells her to do it. She just does it. She's so motivated, and everything she does is for the benefit of other people. She wants other people to be happy with something that she's created, and I've really taken that and done it into my own way of like I've never had her tell me when to do my homework, like, "Hey, do your homework, do the chores, do this, go to the gym, you need to eat this." I've done everything on my own. I control my schedule entirely, and I mean, I know I'm 16 at this point, it's like, yeah, so does everybody, but at the same
Yeah, but
time,
you
it's
know what? That's a good point though, because the interesting part about this is there are, I don't know if maybe in her parenting skills being able that she kind of pushed you into, not push like, but
Mhm,
like metaphorically kind of pushed you into being self-sufficient. She wanted you
yeah.
to be able to stand up on your own 2 feet. Of course, she's always back there to help you if you fall. But that's very interesting that you are living what you've learned through living with your mom. You've watched what she does and how she handles her life is how I see it. And then you just probably have natural tendencies to be that way as well. Do you have friends though that are the opposite, that that they're saying, "Oh my gosh, my parents are always after me to do my homework and they're so annoying."
Well, whenever I was a lot younger, I would have friends that had a lot of, like, their parents would control everything that they did. It was like, "Oh, I can't do this. I have to do all these things that my parents want me to do. I have to do this extracurricular. I am not allowed to draw or write about these certain things. I have to they want me to do this whenever I go off to college. They want me to go to this college, this blah blah blah." But as I've gotten older, and I mean, I'm not that old, obviously, but I have learned that people that I get along with more have grown up similar to me. I have my best friend. She herself is very independent, and I mean, her parents are very supportive of that. They know exactly what she wants. She has very specific goals and very specific dreams, and at the same time, I feel like she motivates me to grow more instead of, like, having a friend at a young age that it's like you start growing up like this and then they stunt. With her, it feels so much better because we're growing at the same time and we can intermix our ideas and still be fine, even though we're quite opposite in interests, but we get along super well because of that.
That's really fun to have someone in your life that can motivate you. Not that you need motivated, but it's always good to be, like you said, around like-minded people that you kind of feed off of one another, where it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
and I'm doing this and you're doing that. Let's go. Let's reach for the stars.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just know that there's a lot of things that you can probably share with us, give us insight on, even though you're more of a motivated, I mean, you're not a troubled child. You're not skipping school. You're not getting poor grades. But that is the case in a lot of places. And you are in Texas, in a city in Texas. And I'm in Ohio, and I see a lot of troubled students, and a lot of them are just kind of like they have no direction. Do you also, I mean, not in your own school, are you out and about enough, or are you so focused on school that you're not like seeing the other kids out there who are struggling? What's your experience with that?
So I actually have a lot of experience with people like this. A lot of times they will I don't mind if somebody maybe doesn't know exactly what they want to do or they're kind of just taking baby steps in that direction. But a lot of the times I've experienced like around here, and I know it's probably happening all over the world, is teenagers will get themselves caught up in like so many different social groups in this social group that is kind of like glamorizing the whole like these young TV shows like Riverdale, Euphoria, and they're like, "Oh, I need to be popular. I can skip school. I'm so they glamorize mental illness and doing things that are like
Mhm.
illegal or just doing stuff like that, and then they criticize some of them. Some of them criticize other people for wanting to have dreams. I know in my personal experience, I went to, another high school for, like, a game, like a football game, and I had a friend there, and she was telling me all these things, and I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna go to this party, and it's fine." I'm like, "Oh, okay, fine," like, "Okay, party." And so she tells me, and she's like, "Yeah, there's gonna be drinking," and I was like, "Drinking?
Yeah.
I don't know about that." And so I decided no, and then I was like, "No, I don't wanna do that, like, I'm not into it, I really don't want to," you know? So I didn't go, I made that decision for myself. I'm not gonna try and look cool. I don't care, you can call me lame, you can call me all these things, I'm not gonna do that because 'cause I'm thinking about myself now. I enjoy being youthful and young, and I enjoy my health. In 10 years from now, I also want to enjoy my health, you know? I don't wanna get
Well, what
addicted.
about, okay, how did that go over when you said, "I'm not really into that, I'm not going"?
Um, I think she had taken it as like a, "Oh, like, you're judging me, like, you're doing all this, like, you're not even all that. You think that you're so smart. You think that you are so prestigious, like, get off your high horse. You think that you're better than me." And it's like, I don't think that I'm better than you. We are the same age, we are the same level. I'm making better decisions than you. Like,
Well, yeah, well, that's the thing, though. It is so difficult. That's peer pressure at its best, and you were able to push through that and not give into it, um, which says a lot about your self-worth, in my opinion, at such a young age. What advice would you give other kids your age to find the strength to say no when you really when you're not into it, you don't wanna do it, and to say no? What advice would you give them?
well, okay, so what I do is I think of it as a situation for in 10 years, if I look back and I'm trying to tell, like, my friends then, or trying to tell, like, a parent or somebody that you kind of look up to, you're gonna tell them, like, this experience that you had 10 years ago. If I were to tell my mother in 10 years, "Yeah, whenever I was 16, I went to a party and was drinking," it's like, you don't sound cool, you just sound like you got peer pressured, and for me saying no, what helps me say no is I really do think, like, what and it's such a basic answer, but what are the consequences of my actions? And if you think like, "Oh, it's just a little bit of, like, minor side effects, like, it's not gonna do anything," think long term. What if somebody at this party takes a photo of you and uploads it on the internet, and then boom, you can't get a job or get into college because you're seen as this, like, party animal or whatever, and I'm not saying that, like, it's not good to have fun. I have a lot of fun. I go hang out a lot with, like, my best friend, and I mean, I'm not always studying or, like, reading a book, and I mean, that's okay. A lot of teenagers these days look at people who do read books and study all the time, and I do that a fair amount, but they see it as like, "Oh, this person's not fun. This person is gonna, like, make fun of me or not understand my humor," and that's not the case
Mhm.
whatsoever. Like, I do get along with the types of people who go to parties and maybe don't make the best decisions. Do I align myself with them? No, but can I get along with them? Yes, and the thing is that you have to realize that people, yeah, you're gonna get a little bit of backlash. It's gonna be, "Oh, whatever, you're lame," but then the next day, they're not gonna remember. They're not gonna be like, "I don't wanna be friends with so and so because this person didn't go drinking with me," because 'cause they're gonna realize how dumb it sounded after the fact.
Yeah. That's really good advice, and if you in the moment can to ask yourself, "What are the consequences of the actions? Is this gonna make be better for my future or not?" And it's just it's when you say it, it sounds easier than what it actually is. Now, I do know, like, if I'm talking about my daughter, I think I mean, there's probably some things she did that I'm not aware of. However, um, she wasn't, like, into the partying and the drinking and things like that. Hey, just let me stop because I wanna see what Joanna has to say. Young people today have to have a lot of foresight and think beyond the present, even as far as the implications on social media. Yeah, you're right, Joanna. You are right. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's I know that my daughter wasn't into it and all of that, but, like, even as she's in college, she has made comments to me before, and I'm sure she's pretty much an open book, so she'll be fine with me sharing this, but she has said, "It feels weird when I'm with a group of girls and they all have these really funny memories together of doing, like, the night out and the going here," and they're old enough to drink, okay, so that's
Mhm.
on a different but sh even though she's old enough to drink, it's really not her game, and, she'll, like, wine with dinner and stuff, but she's not really a big party animal, and when she has, she hasn't felt well, so she doesn't enjoy it, but she said it makes you feel a little bit left out. But for her, at the end of the day, feeling a little left out every once in a while, but still making better decisions still always outweighs the
Yeah.
partying. So,
Yeah, and
it's just
honestly, it's really, like, if you think about it in a sense of what would you do in that type of situation, what I like to think of is if I'm getting pressured to do something that I really don't wanna do and, like, I don't wanna if it's like a social setting and it's like, "Oh, but these people have all these fun experiences," like, I've been that way, like, summer, I was at a place where there's so many diverse people from all over, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, I did this and it was so fun. I went out and did this, it was so fun. You should totally come next time," and then I'm thinking, like, even if I was there, would I even enjoy it? No, and I mean, a lot of that comes from me being and I have friends, I swear, but I am honestly my own friend. It's sometimes where it's like, would I rather go out on the town and go drinking or, like, I don't know, just be a public nuisance, which is most of the time what people my age are telling me that they're doing. Like, yeah, we totally pulled all these pranks on people. We were asking all these strangers. We did this inside of a Walmart. And it's like, you're just being embarrassed. But for me, what I do is I think, would I rather be out in that situation or be at home watching my favorite show with my cat? Like,
Yeah.
obviously, I want to be with myself because I entertain myself quite well. So,
Well, you know what? That is a great thing to be, and that's to be your own friend. When you said that, to me, it wasn't funny at all. It's so true. And the older I've gotten, the more I've realized that if you are okay with being with yourself and you like yourself and you enjoy the time and silence with, or just at home alone, as you even going out to dinner by yourself and being okay. I used to feel sorry for people if they were at dinner alone. And now I'm like, I love that. It's fun to me. It's like enjoyable. I can just take in the moment. I'm not having to entertain anybody. It's just good. But that didn't come until much later in my life. So I think that's really cool that you're already there. That's really amazing to me. So you're really coming from I think that a lot of teenagers have that inside of them. They just succumb to the peer pressure and then they end up going down the wrong path. Let me ask you this. What is something that adults say to teenagers that drives you absolutely crazy?
um, honestly, there's a few things, but like one of them mainly, like it's really specific to me, is that so I want to be a medical examiner, and I know that's quite ambitious. It's a bit out there. It's honestly, it surprises a lot of adults that would willingly want to do that. But one of my things that people say to me that are like, is like, well, wouldn't you rather do this? Like, I've gotten like, well, wouldn't you want to be a nurse instead? Don't you want to work with kids instead? And it's like, no, I don't. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like,
Yeah,
it's my dream to be a medical examiner, not to be a nurse, you know? And I mean, I
that's
feel like
good.
that's a
Good for
universal.
you. Come on, people. Let's give her a round of applause because seriously, there are so many, and a lot of times that's where dreams are stifled. When you're young and you're impressionable and other people have their ideas for what you want to do, what you should be doing. Yes, amen, Sean says. And then that's where dreams can be crushed because then maybe it would get in the normal teenager's brain, a normal meaning the average, um, where they think, well, am I qualified enough? Am I going to be able to do it? Am I going to like it? Am I, all of those things. So good for you. No, it's not. You don't want to be a nurse. You want to be a medical examiner.
Yeah, and I mean,
And,
honestly,
if you get to the point where you're in it and you don't like it, that's going to be your decision
of course,
to,
yeah, and it's like, it's my decision what I do. If you're like, "Oh, you're not gonna end up liking it, you're gonna be scared, you're not gonna know what to do," that's me. That's a me problem to deal with later, which it's like, I know myself more than you know me, so you can't tell me that I'm not gonna like it if you've never done it yourself, you've never been to medical school, you're not qualified to tell me that, and you know nothing about my personality. Also, I've been told so many times, I've been almost belittled by some adults for saying that, but it's always been people who don't know anything of the sort. It's like it's a projection almost because they're like, yeah, I wouldn't do that, so why would you? Why would you ever wanna do that?
Mhm.
Because it's like they're coming from a place of fear themselves, or they're coming from uncertainty themselves, and then they're trying to project it onto me so that I can share that experience with them, but it's like, I'm ahead of you in that sense of, I know what I wanna do in my career, that way I know what my fears are, I know what my boundaries are, I know exactly where I wanna be.
Wow, that's impressive. And Joanna just said that she wishes more teens would stay true to themselves. And I was going to say, Joanna, but at that young of an age, do you really know who you are yet? And then I thought, we do, and then we unlearn it by all the other things that people say to us. So that's really good. Joanna says Katelyn has really thought things through. Yes.
Thank
And
you.
her mom has been on this show before, and her mother has been a resource for me and a beautiful angel to help me with my new business. And I can totally understand there is parenting involvement here. And there is, even though I think kids are going to, each of my children are different from one another, from the same two parents and the same rearing, but so meaning you are who you are, but
Mhm.
to have a support system like your mom in the background, giving you the insight and supporting you, that's really important. So, I can say, and this is a knock on me, but it's true, and I've learned. I was really involved in my kids' lives, and I think sometimes to a fault, because I needed them to figure out for sure what they wanted to do. They didn't really pay much attention to me anyway. So they ended up doing what they wanted. But I mean, I was always like, well, what about this? What about that? And really, I should have just shut my face, because, and even with talking to you as a 16-year-old, a young person who has this much insight with the right support system around, it's impressive. And we need to probably, as adults, and once we get our age, we think that kids don't know anything, and that's a generalized statement. But in general, we'll think, well, they don't know it. They haven't lived that long. They don't understand. But no, I think you guys do. I think you do. And you probably need to be supported more by adults than not. So that to be said. But so, do you think that the kids that you're with, since you're in like a school with like-minded kids, do you think all of them feel like college is the way to go, or are any of them doing trade schools after? Do you know anything about that?
I do. I know quite a bit about kind of the interest of my classmates and like what we all want to do. So, a lot of people are planning on going to medical school. Our school has a really large medical skill set. Like some people are
Yeah.
really wanting to do nursing programs and they want to be surgeons, doctors. I've met a lot of people who want to go into the medical field. Some people are going to trade school, and I don't know many people who are. I know some people who want to go to art school, and the majority of us are just going to go straight to do our like undergrad, and then we're going to go to medical school. And
Yeah.
a lot of things is like you'd all think that we're kind of like on the same page with that.
Hmm.
I think I've gotten more hate from kids my age about wanting to go to college out of state than adults.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
It
So that's kind of a judgmental thing going on right now. Like, kids judge where you want to go to school, or what is that?
so it's not necessarily where you want to go to school. It's the idea that you would want to leave home, and I think it's because of
Oh,
this, especially in Texas, and I know a lot of people in the South, and I mean, like, it doesn't really push me in any direction, but it's like I've people in the South love the South. It's like, why would you ever wanna leave Texas? Why would you ever wanna leave the South? It's awesome here, you know? And it's like, people have different like, ways that they wanna live. My lifestyle would be better fitted to where I wanna go, and I mean, I wanna go to UNC Chapel Hill, I wanna move to North Carolina, and I've
nice.
been told that, "Oh, that's gonna be too expensive. You're gonna be buried in debt for the rest of your life." Well, even if I were, I would rather be buried in debt and happy than stuck in a place that I can't move out of and to have
Yeah.
the same amount of money. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think people really understand my age that people that live in different states now, not every single one of them was born there.
No,
And
it's honestly,
yeah,
like, it's
it's
more
the
common now
demographics too.
to be right. Well, I
Yeah.
didn't really even know that about the South. So everyone's like, why would you leave?
Oh,
Texas is
yeah.
like its own country.
Yeah. I was talking about it in one of my classes, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I wanna go maybe I'll apply to one that's out of state," and somebody was like, "Why would you do that?" Or like, "You wanna go there?" And it's like, "Yeah, I do. I do wanna go there, thank you. It's one of the top biology schools in the nation. Yes, I do wanna go there." And
Yeah.
it's like,
Well, that would make sense for you, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and I feel like it's, people don't understand the preferred demographics if you'd rather live in a populated city or not a populated city. If you wanna live around these like if there's certain types of people that live in certain areas, like down here a lot of people are interested in like we're in the South, people are interested in agriculture, fishing, and people are very outdoorsy here, which I mean that's not everybody, but it's where the environment is located. And I mean where I want to be on that college campus, I've seen the campus, I've seen the students that go there, it's beautiful and I love it. And here I feel like an outlier sometimes because
Okay.
you know how it is, it's like you look different than most people in the South. You know, it's like if I feel like I look different than people in the South, I feel like I act different than people in the South, I don't talk the same as people in the South, I have different interests in what I want to do. It's like sometimes you really feel like you don't fit in here and maybe a new place would be better.
Well, for one, you're picking the college because of the interests that you have moving forward, biology, and it's the best. And then two, what I commend you for being able to feel like you can fly away and be okay and be independent in another place. I think it's probably really a good idea for you if this is the feelings that you're having and you're drawn there to just go. And then once again, like I said earlier, and I've always told my kids this too, if you go somewhere and it really, with giving it an effort and you don't like it, you're not chained there. You can
Yeah.
always leave. And you can always leave Texas and you're going to, it sounds like.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
and I mean, I think it's a part of growing up to realize that you're not stationary, you're not chained to home. A lot of people are afraid to, "Oh, I don't wanna leave my family, I don't wanna leave my friends," and that's awesome. I mean, now a lot of our biggest pros and cons of our society today is social media, and I mean, as bad as social media can be for teen minds, it can also help them. If you move 6 hours away from your best friend and can't see them every day, you
yeah.
can always text, you can always FaceTime, you can always post something to let them know, like, "Hey,
Here
I'm
I
sitting
am.
under the same moon as you, I'm looking at the same moon that you are, I'm feeling the same weather, I am in the same space that you are, we can't see each other, and that's fine." And I've realized that, my best friend has realized that, my mom has realized that it's like, just because you can't see me and that I'm not within your grasp, I'm not doesn't mean that I'm gone.
Hey, Robert. I think that's Robert typing in. Yes, and Joanna also said that investment in your education is so important, and investing in yourself for sure. But I was going to ask you about that. So, what are your thoughts on the amount of influence that social media has? Now, you talked about like shows where people kind of are into certain shows and they try to emulate those characters and doing what those characters do. But what about social media with the people you're around? Are they on their phones all the time on social media?
And, okay, so honestly, the amount of time that teenagers are on their phone isn't really even the issue. It's kind of what they consume. I feel like as especially a teen girl, we see so many of these new trends and so many of these models that kind of like edit their photos. And I mean, do what you want. I mean, if you look great after you edit it, go ahead, post it. Awesome. But then it's like these young teen girls, they see it. And I mean, it's not the model's fault or the person's fault at all. It's just how we interpret it. And I mean, how you've been raised to interpret it as well. So, I mean, like I've seen this trend. It's like, what type of pretty are you? And even for men, I don't know if there's a lot of like men watching this, but a lot of men have these like new trends that are kind of like really they're like alpha male trends and it's like, "Oh, you have to be this type of person. You have to look like one of the top celebrities. You have to have a sharp jawline. Your eyes have to be tilted in a positive way." It's so dumb that it's like I feel like a lot of people take um surface level beauty to such a degree that they forget that getting to know somebody
Mhm.
really improves the way that they look to you as well. I mean, like, I'm sure a lot of us can relate to, like,
Mhm.
if you immediately meet somebody and you don't necessarily think, "Wow, this person's really attractive." You don't think, like I mean, sometimes you do, but sometimes you don't, and then you get to know them and you're like, "Wow, this person is really funny. They have really thought their life out. They're emotionally smart. They're intelligent." And then it's like, maybe I do like this person for more than just what they look like, and I mean, it's
I
really
That's so funny you say that because I that's happened to me so many times where and just being honest, there may be people who, if I were walking down the street, I wouldn't take a second glance, right?
Mhm.
But then you get to know them and you're like, she's gorgeous.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It's like
yeah,
beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. Being, you get to know that person, the humor or the compassion, or just the way they hold themselves, intelligence and all of those things. Then it's like, woo, you just see differently. It's so true. It's so
yeah,
true.
and
And
I
I'm
mean, a
so
lot of
excited you
people
know
are
that.
so many people are like, "I wanna be this, like" if a model walks down the street, you're always like, "Oh my gosh, I have to look at her again," like, second glance, but then people kind of forget about, like and, like, vintage trends are coming back and, like,
Yeah.
people are, analyzing different time periods to look at the way not only fashion, but the way they have written and the way that they act. Even now, it's more of the romance, and I mean, it's obviously not great if it's some laws haven't been passed yet or some
Yeah.
societal standards have been different, but I mean, you take the good away from the bad sometimes, and I feel like, um, in, like, some movies even, it's like you want that old romance where it's like, "Write me a love letter." Yeah, I want that. Bake me a cake and put something cute on it. Take Polaroids and keep it in your wallet. Like, that's cute, that's nice. That is really more telling of your personality than your look, and I mean, doing those gestures and showing your personality off more makes you a more attractive person. Like, even a lot of celebrities nowadays, they'll do, interviews and, like, they'll really show their personalities, and people are like, "Wait, like, I really like this celebrity now, even though I didn't think they were attractive at first." And I mean,
Mhm.
it's such a big trend that people care so much what they look alike these days, and hey, who am I to talk? I do the same thing. I'm like, "Oh, I do care about what I look like a lot," because you do care what people judge you as, but then you realize that that's not where everything's coming from. If somebody likes you, it's not because, like, "Oh, I just think that you're so pretty," you know? It's like,
Oh, I
I
love that your cat's there. That's so
yeah,
cute.
he wants to
You know
join.
what is interesting? So I wanna say something about this. You caring about the way you look, I always feel like if you wanna look good for you, that's number 1. And science even proves that if you take time for yourself and, you feel like you feel good and you look good, it helps you. It helps you internally. So I'm a big promoter of, self-care, self-love, and all of those things. So while I say that, it might sound contradictory to it's what's on the inside, but I believe that they can be married. And I think that it's really important. But I also am not going to be the person who isn't going to look past what someone looks like either. I
Course, yeah.
wanna know the person. So I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. So what about, there was some other one thing I know, haven't you written articles or something about teenage life? What
I
or papers or something I heard?
so I've written, like, small little excerpts about, my experience as a teenage girl. It's kind of like I call it, like, the diary of a teenage girl, and I have written a few different things, and I'm planning on publishing them at some point on, like, a blog or something. I'm doing that sometime at the end of this month, and it's mainly about, like, coming from every I write it right after an experience happens to me where I realize, like, "Are you kidding me? Like, let me write this," you know, because it's like something happens to you and you are really realizing this only happens to teenagers, this only happens to teenage girls. You've never felt like you get talked to like this or this experience happens to you otherwise. So I've kind of written it for people my age to look at and be like, "Yeah, somebody gets it." Because sometimes I really think like, "This I swear nobody else feels like this," and it's like, everybody your age feels like this, you know? And it's also for people who are maybe older than me and wanna see, like, maybe your kid doesn't talk to you as much as you would wish they would about their feelings, and it's like, this is probably how we feel, and I mean, I really am able to express myself through my writing and express how I feel about topics, like,
So what would
social media and stuff, so
Yeah, what would I would love to read those, so maybe we need to have you back on when you publish your blogs so people can read them too. But what are your suggestions for parents who have a 16-year-old boy or girl or a teenage boy or girl and they just have gone radio silent with their parents? And what is there anything that you could like encourage parents to do to maybe help the relationship or the communication?
oh, yeah, so, one of the biggest things for me is, like, if you've come home and you've had a bad day, there's nothing that you can really change about that. Like, say I just had a really horrible day. I don't wanna come home and then be like, "Well, don't let one bad thing ruin your whole day." It's like, I know that. Yeah, I know that, okay? I'm not gonna let one bad thing ruin my entire day or, like, "Well, why are you, like" I don't know, like, "Don't be this, don't be that." It's like, you
Mhm.
can't just tell me, "Don't be this," and then expect it to be better. What I feel like the best thing to do for me, honestly, and I know a lot of people are like this, is one, building that trust in order for your teenager to tell you about certain things. They're not gonna tell you about everything no matter what. I'll tell you this right now. There's always gonna be certain things that are like, you have a best friend for a reason, maybe you have a sibling for a reason. There's certain things that you just won't say. But then it's like, you wanna feel heard more than advice. A lot of teenagers my age won't tell their parents something because it's like, "I just want you to listen. I don't want your advice because I know what I'm doing with this. This is my situation to be handled. I know the situation more than you do. I know the person, I know the environment more." And it's like, a lot of times parents will come at it with like, "Let me help you in this way. Let me advise you to do this." And I mean, some people need the advice, but a lot of us, just want to be heard, want to say something about it, not, "I've had a really bad day because this and happened." "Well, have you tried doing this? Have you done this? Don't let this
Yeah,
ruin
so
something."
unsolicited
Yeah,
advice is not welcomed
yeah,
by
it really
teenagers.
checks out the teenager out of the conversation of like, "Oh, if you're just gonna lecture me, if you're just gonna give me advice on something that I didn't ask for, then I don't wanna hear it."
Mhm. Mhm. That makes a lot of sense, and, and one would think that with being a parent and coming at the situation always the same way, just by instinct, that you'd realize, "Huh, this isn't working. How can I do it differently?" So, I actually this what you just said was also said by, Stephanie Infante when she was on the show with other Mindy Dreyer and, oh gosh, I shouldn't even say any names because there was a panel of us, and, Stephanie Infante said she's learned to ask her kids, "Okay, are we talking about this, or am I just listening to you? Because I need to know if you want me to interact or give advice." And, ever since she said that, I've done that because I'm like, I need to know because I'm not gonna pour my heart out either because coming from a parent's side, you're thinking you're helping. You're
Yeah,
always
yeah,
wanting
it's
your
always from a place of help, but
yeah, and being, a mother and I gotta do my job, I gotta help
Mhm.
her or I gotta help him. But the reality is they don't always want it. They just need someone to vent to.
Yeah,
So that's
absolutely.
great. That's great advice. And I needed that little reminder maybe. That's good. That's really good. So, some of the other articles that you've written, and you did write about social media, I just heard you say. So could
Mhm.
you give me just a little idea about what your thoughts are on that?
I think that so for what I write is I write about the pros and cons of social media, and I mean, there is a lot of pros beyond just, like, the trends or whatever, but there is pros. People tend to feel more heard through social media. You get to see all these people with the same experience as you, or maybe they cheer you up whenever you feel down, and a lot of it for me is that, as a kid, I didn't really have, like, my brother is older than me, and, whenever you're you're a few years younger, you're like, "I wanna hang out with you," and it's like, "No, get out of my room," you know?
Yeah.
So, you turn to social media nowadays, and it's like, sometimes you feel less lonely just watching your favorite show, podcast, your favorite YouTubers, your favorite content creators, and I mean, you feel like you're really there, and honestly, it can teach people how to interact socially. Like,
Mhm.
if people didn't grow up with a lot of friends, they didn't grow up in the right environment of people telling them what is right and what is wrong, what you can and can't say, social media really tells you, like, "Hey, that's not acceptable to do in public." You know how to make
If
friends,
you're
that's how you
watching the
make
right things.
yeah,
Are
absolutely.
there any for kids who may be, like, tuning in or whatever, are there any particular podcast or YouTubers that you think are incredibly positive and informative and all the good things to help give, students maybe or kids your age some guidance for future, or can you think of anyone?
Yeah, honestly, so I listen to a few podcasts, and I mean, it's kind of embarrassing to say because it's not like some academic, like, awesome, you need to be feeling this. It's just people who are really, really funny to me. I
Mm,
listen to the Broski Report by Brittany Broski every single time she posts because it will not only does she's super funny, not only will she talk about things that I think are funny in current social media, she's also younger, but she talks about current world issues and social problems that do need to be solved, and she cares about that, but at the same time, that's not all she does. I
okay.
also listen to, like, I listen to Stephanie Sue podcast, which is kind of informative. It's just a somebody talking about true crime, and, like, it's not in such a lecture way.
Yeah.
It's more of a, like, "I'm sharing this information with you because I want you to know it." It's not like it
Mhm.
doesn't feel like an assignment. And then I listen to TMG podcast with Cody Ko and Noel Miller. They're really funny. It makes me feel better. So I mean, it's interesting to hear a point of view coming from a girl as well. Like as a girl, sometimes I don't know what guys think are funny. I don't know what guys are thinking about nowadays. And watching it from another perspective is like, oh, it's really not that much.
That's awesome that you could just rattle those off too, so hopefully I'll check those out too just to see. I was thinking of something when you were talking. So, when you think about when your mom was young, so as you
Mhm.
look at your mom from a 16-year-old and you look at your mom, who looks as young as you, by the way. You guys have that good skin. Um, What do you visualize her? Do you feel like her growing up years were way different than what you're dealing with in your era?
Absolutely. I do think that a lot. I mean, my mom had a lot of friends. She was like me now. I've taken a lot of inspiration from her. I am close with my brother. She was close with her brother. And I mean, I've taken that. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me, honestly. And I keep she doesn't like it, but she used to take a lot of photos, and they're all printed, and so I have them all, and I like to look at them sometimes because it's like, you really get to see the side of your own mother that you would never see now, and I mean, I think that in personality, she still has a very youthful personality. She still
Yeah.
is fun, and she still is the kind of the same type of happy that she was then, and I mean, looking at it, it is it's wonderful just to see, like, you lived the same experience as me, but I obviously am different. I mean, I don't
Mhm.
have a lot of friends. I don't do the same thing as her. I don't go out all that much, and I mean, that doesn't really change the fact that I still have fun and have a social life, but the way that it was is different. I mean, obviously, we have more social media now. We have more stuff to do at home, and I mean, me being my own friend, it's easier for me to entertain myself without, like, going out really, and she's even told me, she's like, "Wow, you are way smarter than I was at that age," or, like, "You know much more than I did at that age," and it's also what has been available to me. I mean, I'm sure if the same thing was offered to her, she would have probably done it, but I have made opportunities for myself. I have really dug to get myself where I am now, and I mean,
Mhm.
it might not have had the same opportunity that I did.
Caitlin, you're inspiring to me. Yeah, you are. I don't care that you're 16, like, that inspires me. You are so wonderful and so thought out, and, like, the forethought that you have for your future, and also recognizing that, you like to look at the old pictures of your mom and you're like, "Wow, I get to see her that way," even though she's a youthful and she's not that old really, but she had that youth and still has a youthful personality too. But, it's funny because I know, like, my daughter will say, "Oh my gosh, it just looks like" she'd look through my old pictures, and I also had a ton of friends, and I was not focused on my future. I mean, I was not. I think one of the things as a parent for me, I wanted to really make sure with my children that maybe I got a little too pushy about their future because I wanted them to be more on track than what I was. But I think it's interesting because she'll say, "Oh my gosh, it looks like those were the days." I mean, she makes me feel like I'm with Fonzie on Happy Days. I don't even know if you know what that is. I mean, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Jory." I mean, like, we still had our issues. We still had our
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
But I gotta say, I have to give them and you all grace for all the extra stuff that you have to deal with on top of going through puberty, trying to figure out where you want to go to school, all of the normal peer pressure things of growing up. And, now you can't do one single thing and you're on the internet, Oh God, thank God there was no social media when I was in school.
Yeah,
Scary.
it's also
I'm
like,
back up.
it's also the lesson of just, like in school, I never really paid attention, like, growing up in elementary school, middle school, it's like, "Your digital footprint, blah, blah, blah. No, say no to drugs," and it's like, doing that in such a big social environment, people are always gonna make a joke out of it. They're gonna be like, "Oh, whatever," and, I did the same then, but you really learn those lessons by looking at it, by seeing it, and then you're like, "That is not what I want for myself," you know? Like, I don't wanna be doing that, and I feel
Right.
like a lot of the times, maybe, like, people your age growing up never really had that, and if they did, it's like, whatever, like, nobody cares. I feel like it's always been kind of overlooked until you really see it, and I feel like nowadays, people are doing more and more and more that it's like, I don't ever wanna see myself fall down the way. I don't ever want my friends or my family, I don't want anybody for that matter to see me in that state.
Yeah.
So, it's like, it's the punishment of your own actions, you know? It really comes back to you by seeing it through other people. You don't wanna end up like them.
So true. Now, wow, that that's really good. Okay, you should be like a speaker at your school. Have you ever thought? Are there groups like nowadays in school where you have groups of almost like reverse peer pressure, like the people who are like, enough of the bullshit. Like, I'm done with the drinking. I'm done with the I don't want any of that. Like, I want a future. Do you see these people who are cracked out, maxed out on the side of the road that, are half dead because of drugs? And do you, partying and all that? Do you guys have groups, or is it more people just go off on their own? I don't know.
I feel like, if I were to talk to 10 people in a group, and all at once, if I were to say, "Yeah, do you guys like that? Like, isn't that kind of fun?" They would all be like, "Oh, yeah, totally," like, "That's awesome, I'm so glad, like, we should totally do it again this weekend." But if I were to pull one person individually out of the 10, one at a time, one by one, and just individually ask, "Is this really what you like to do?" A lot of them, probably 8 out of 10 would probably say, "No, but everybody else likes doing it." "No, but it boosts the mood," Like, it makes everything a bit more fast-paced, it makes things I don't wanna remember my actions, I don't wanna
Mm.
I just don't wanna remember it, or it's so much faster, it's more fun, and it's like, that's not what
So
you want,
what
you
about
know?
if I mean, like, if for other kids who are like you, who really, and most, it sounds like really, probably the majority of the kids really don't want to go and do that, but they think everyone else does. So someone like you're able to say, it's not my gig, it's not my thing. And you know that you might get backlash in the front of it, but then they forget about it and they go on. Have you ever had to give advice to any of your friends or anyone else? Or, I mean, I know if they've asked you, I'm sure you wouldn't give unsolicited advice, but like, have you ever said to somebody, if you don't like doing it, just don't do it?
Yeah, I actually have had an experience with this, and I think this one is really applicable. So, I was friends with this girl, and she had never drank, she never smoked, she never did anything like that. And I mean, nicotine is huge nowadays, and she had never she had never vaped before, right?
Mm.
Um, and we were with a group of people that did, and I was really uncomfortable with it. I didn't like it. I never have liked it. I still don't. But
Mhm.
hey, to each their own, I guess. And so I'm in this situation where she's like, they're offering it to her. I've already said no. I don't do that.
Yeah.
Like it's whatever. I'm not a buzzkill about it, but I was like, "No, whatever, I don't want to." She was like she looked at me and was like, "Should I do it?" And I was like, I know you're not gonna like it. You don't wanna do it, you just wanna seem cool. Like, you wanna seem like, "Oh, she's, you know, agreeable, you're more relatable if you do it."
Uh,
So, she ended up, like I don't even remember what it was exactly. I think it was like a dab pen or something, and it's like she she had smoked a little bit of it, and then like, she hit it once, and then she came back to me, and she was in tears. She was in hysterics and was like, "I think I'm having a panic attack. Like, this is the worst experience ever. I don't like this." And I was like, "I had told you that, but I was a great friend to her." And I was like, I supported her no matter
yeah.
what. I calmed her down from her panic attack, and I was like, "Okay, let's clear the room. It's the social environment. You need to first off change your clothes. Second, get warm, drink more water. You need to be doing this to feel yourself, feel at home, be comfortable in your own skin. By doing that, you're really unsettling it for somebody who's never done it." She's like, "Oh, I'm having a panic attack. I don't want to be doing this." And it's like, you didn't
I
have
think
to.
you're
And I
right. I think
and
that happens more than what we realize, and then they just wanna be cool more than making good decisions.
yeah, it's really about like looking like I think people who make a lot of bad decisions and they know it's a bad decision, it's about wanting to seem more mature than everybody else and wanting to seem more fun than everybody else. They put themselves on this pedestal of like, "Oh, I'm not a baby. I do all these adult things because 'cause I'm not a baby like you guys," And it's like,
Mhm.
you're gonna
Yeah.
end up being one in 5 years if you keep going on that? It's
Uh-huh.
like
Wow.
people make
But you
themselves
you
so
have
much
a lot
cooler.
of good insight. I mean, it's so true, and you're a junior now, right?
Yes.
So you will graduate next year, at the
Mhm.
end of next year, and then go on to college, but hopefully, and I think you will, that you'll stay true to who you are, and giving into peer pressure, especially at this point. What is the point? I
Yeah.
mean, I think too, people will have a lot of respect for you, that, even if they don't like it, they want you to come, they want you to join in, they'll still respect your decision. And one thing I want to say is, and anybody watching is, if you have a friend who gets angry with you for not doing things that you don't want to do, that's not a good friend.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Sure.
So, that you may want to rethink who you're hanging around if
Mhm.
you're made to feel like you have to do something to fit in. But I have been enthralled in our conversation. We've gone a little longer than what I thought we were, but I always ask well, before I ask you my last question, is there anything else you'd like to add to the conversation before the last question that maybe I haven't asked you that you'd like to share?
No, no, I think that's it.
Okay. All right. So the show's Find It. Ta-da. So, and it's called Find It because we're all finding out new things and either looking for something or we've discovered something. But what have you found in your life thus far that you can share with us to help us find it too?
So I would say really match your mindset to your lifestyle. If you're not somebody who is very motivated, if you're, I mean, like, well, everybody doesn't think that about themselves, but if you know yourself of like, I'm not very that active, I'm a homebody, I don't really like going out, I don't really like doing a ton of movement, then don't promise yourself that you're going to go to the gym 5 times a week. And I mean, I am very future oriented, goal oriented. That's something I do. I hold myself accountable to go 5 times a week or do certain things on certain days. My deadlines for school extracurriculars, personal writings, I set myself that deadline because it works with my
It
lifestyle.
works for
A lot
you.
of people will try and force themselves to get into what they see other people doing, what works for them. Like, oh, well, this influencer, this person, this friend that I look up to is they do this 4 times a week. They eat this way. They do their work a certain way. They go to certain places. They, I don't know, like their lifestyle because that's their lifestyle and that's their mindset. Find your own and then create your, really build on your own mindset to being your own individual person. Really
Mm,
enlighten yourself and others by being yourself, being true to yourself. You know, it just comes down to what works with my schedule. Don't try and change your entire life just to fit some like lifestyle trend that's going on, you know?
that's good. That's really good. I like that. That's so true. Don't fit yourself in a box that you don't belong in. Who are you? What do you really enjoy? What matches your mindset?
Yeah. Especially with
That's
like the New Year's resolutions thing. It's like,
yeah.
don't promise yourself that you're gonna do this if you know you're not. Right.
Why lie to yourself,
Yeah,
right?
just you're gonna only feel disappointed whenever you realize that, like the past 20 years, every year you're like, "I'm gonna do this," and then what, a month later, "No, I'm not gonna do this. I'm disappointed in myself." Don't set yourself up. Don't set
Yeah.
yourself up.
Be
Just pass.
realistic in your mindset and who you are. That's awesome. Katelyn, you are just you're a keeper. I would
Right?
love to have you on again sometime.
Of
I would
course.
love to hear what you're doing as you progress into your high school career and then when you move. Oh my gosh, I'm excited to follow you. So I appreciate you being here and we will have you on again. I've loved this just so much. So I'm grateful for you and your mother. And with that, y'all, this is the end of this episode. I think this is my 98th episode. So we'll have to do something big for the 100th. So anyway, thank you guys for being here if you're watching live or on replay. And I'll see you again, same time next week, Wednesday at 8 p.m. See ya.
That floats around me, keeping me